And Kana Whitworth joins me now from Moscow, Idaho, along with criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Bernardo Villalona for more. Kana, you've been covering this story from the beginning, and you've talked to lots of people in this community along the way. So what do you make of the defense's claims about community sentiment toward Bryan Kohberger, and what can we expect to happen in court today?
Well, first of all, Diane, I will say that when you speak with community members here, ultimately the bottom line, what they want is justice. But they want it to be done fairly, and they want it to be done correctly. And that's something that you continuously hear from the prosecution as well, right? They want this to go to trial once and be done. They don't want to see a lot of appeals. So there's a lot of dotting I's and crossing T's here happening. The other thing, Diane, is that they really push back on this sentiment of a mob mentality. In fact, they find it quite offensive, according to a lot of people that I spoke with. But that is something that the defense team will try and prove today. They'll be calling several expert witnesses to the stand, including a social psychologist. And Diane, this is a person who truly believes this survey conducted by the defense team shows a clear bias here in Latah County. And this will reiterate their claim that Bryan Kohberger can't get a fair trial here as they try to move it to Ada County in Boise, where they say the responses to that survey, Diane, were just less emotional.
So, Bernardo, let's talk about that argument. The defense is saying there's a mob mentality and a pressure to convict within the community. So is that enough to move a trial? And if not, how can Kohberger get a fair trial if they don't move it?
So the defense, of course, is going to argue that they won't be able to get a fair and impartial jury, a fair and impartial trial inside of that county. But the test is going to be what the judge is going to determine is questioning these potential jurors. Because the defense, while they say, yes, everyone that they've spoken to, but did they speak to every potential juror? A judge wasn't allowed to speak to those potential jurors. The prosecution wasn't allowed to speak to those potential jurors. They are basing their argument on a survey. When it comes to jury selection, it's not about whether you heard about the case. It's not about whether you heard about Bryan Kohberger. It's more of, can you be a fair and impartial jury? Can you determine the evidence and the facts based on what's presented inside of that courtroom? Yes, the defense does have a strong standing in the sense of that this case is emotionally for everyone, and that it's going to be difficult to get a fair and impartial jury, but it is not impossible. And that is what the judge is going to determine in the questioning and doing this hearing today.
And Bernardo, what's the opposing argument? In general, why try to have it in the location where the crimes were committed? Why not just move it if there's a question?
Well, the thing is that then you can argue that with every trial, with every case that actually exists. Of course, this is a high-profile case, but the people in that county and also the victims and their families do have a right that the case is tried in the county that the crime actually took place. Yes, this county is much smaller than Boise County, but then again, it is not impossible to get a fair and impartial juror. If anything, the judge is going to be able to say, we'll do a questionnaire where they'll be extensively questioned about their views and try to detect if there's any bias or preconceived notions as to the guilt of Bryan Kohberger.
All right, Kana Whitworth, Bernardo Villalona, thank you both.